Hundreds gathered today to say their final goodbyes to this fallen Louisville police officer, D.D. Megadoodoo.
I got my first vase back from the
You're
kiln.
a vase man, not a vase man?
I don't know. What's correct?
I think both are acceptable, but I don't actually know.
Oh, hell yeah. You already got some sunflowers in it?
A weird little guy.
Wow. Tell me about your process with the glazing.
Just a freaky little guy. Did I already tell you this story?
No.
Okay, well, first let me show Andy.
Ooh, what a little funky freak. I love him.
Yeah.
Great flower choice, too.
You want to see my bowl? Did you see this bowl?
I did see the bowl in the Discord. Did you show Andy, though?
Did you see this bowl?
Oh, I for sure saw
Check
the
it
bowl.
out.
It's gorgeous.
It's got such a great texture. It's not very round, is like my only criticism of it.
Why didn't you make it round? You should. Here's what I recommend.
I started
Put
with
it
it
on
round.
like a spinning table, and then you can just hold your hand still,
Interesting.
and it'll make it round.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then what do you do? How do you get it?
It's actually a little bit more difficult than you think. Yeah, so I was in the studio.
Uh-huh.
And
late one night?
Sorry, I'm just thinking about the...
We're all thinking about the monster fuck.
The Nick Weiger bit.
We're all thinking about the monster
did for
fuck.
like 12 years straight.
The monster sucked or fucked.
It was a graveyard.
Well, sure.
It was a graveyard fuck.
Okay, so...
Now, wait, do you want? Hold on.
Any old ways.
Do you want Matthew to bleep all of these, or do you want to rock it on this episode and just mark it explicit?
Here's what I was thinking. I was thinking it might be nice to save you guys a few bucks. And
Do an
just
explicit
say,
one?
and just say fuck it.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Do you want to tell the story of how Matthew had to bill you extra to have me on?
That's the end of the story.
Yeah.
No, Matthew gives us a flat rate for all the episodes, but occasionally,
Most of the time.
Well, yeah, occasionally, the recording will get messed up and it'll be extra work, and we're of course always happy to pay Matthew for his time. And he was like, "Hey, this one kind of took me a little extra time," and so yeah, totally fair.
Yeah. If your children are listening, stop.
Unless they're cool kids.
Stop them.
That want to listen to the monster fuck.
Hold on. Do we think kids should be listening to curse words? What do you think about that?
My hot take is I actually don't care at all. And I have to remind myself when I'm around children, because I don't have any of my own. I don't get to make that decision. But I have a couple of parent friends that have kids and they're just like, it's fine. You know, I mean, like these kids also like they run around their own house without clothes, and you can say, this is fine here. It's not fine elsewhere. That's a pretty typical pattern. Yeah. So to be like, you can say fuck here and not elsewhere, I think is a fine thing to teach kids. And it's very funny when a 6-year-old is sitting in the back of a car and goes like, fuck.
Yeah, that's the only point I was about to make, which is that it just seems funny.
It's so funny.
It seems objectively pretty funny.
It's really good.
Yeah. I'm going to make my kids watch Deadwood when they're 6 years old.
I don't know if you're going to find this as funny as I do, but I don't know what Deadwood is, so I'm just steamrolling right over that.
It's a Western show where they say cocksucker like literally 600 times.
It's like they say cocksucker as many times as they say shit in, what's the movie?
I don't know.
You know the one, the Vietnam War movie with the...
Apocalypse Now?
They're in like boot camp, and it's got the famous guy. It's like the boot camp leader, and he's always... I think it's more Vietnam War it's about.
Yeah.
I've never seen it because it's too scary for me, but
yeah.
I know that it's like... got the record. It's up there with Scarface for the most swears in the runtime of a movie.
What is the name of that movie, Anthony?
I have no idea.
I think Vincent D'Onofrio's in it as a drill sergeant.
Saving Private Ryan?
Is that the name? No, it's definitely not that.
No.
It's
never seen that movie either.
Is it Vincent D'Onofrio?
This is great audio, by the way.
It's good content.
Look, it's what people sign up for when they see Patrick on the guest list of an episode.
Hey, listen, boys.
Should I do the intro at some point?
No.
Boys, I gotta say. No,
so
and listen, Andy, we'll introduce you in just a second.
No, not whatever one you were thinking of with Vincent D'Onofrio. Famous boot camp.
What's the Vincent D'Onofrio one, though?
I don't know. I'm not going to look that up. You can look that one up if you want. Famous boot camp movie swears. Full Metal Jacket is what I'm thinking of.
That's Full Metal Jacket with Vincent D'Onofrio.
Is that Vincent D'Onofrio?
Suck my fucking cock. Yeah, it is. But he's not a drill sergeant. He's a PI.
Okay,
all
that
right,
makes
all
more
you
sense.
cinephiles, he's not the drill sergeant. He's one of the guys.
I've never seen the movie. I just know what the drill sergeant looks like, and so I looked at Vincent D'Onofrio.
Do you guys want to talk about
him.
Vincent D'Onofrio for a minute?
No, I don't know anything about him.
Right?
I know nothing about him. And
I think he's cool. I think he's
underappreciated.
Sound off in the chat if you're a Vincent D'Onofrio lover.
Can I do the intro to the show, and then we can keep doing this?
Edgar from Men in Black.
Hi, and welcome to Lucky Paper Radio. My name is Andy. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Anthony Megadoodoo.
I think it's Dee Megadoodoo.
Hi, Anthony Megadoo.
You ever get something stuck in your head like a DD Megadoo, but to the, what's that song?
Who's the editor?
Hold on. Editor's Matthew, yeah.
Matthew, also, can you just drop a clip in here real quick?
I was going to make that the intro. I was going to give him the whole clip as the intro. Great. So people will have heard the DD Megadoo. I loved that some people hadn't seen that before. It's such a gift to get to show people something like that for the first time.
It really just made me laugh thinking about deciding not to ask Matthew to edit the show, but instead asking him to insert
to
a
drop
bunch
in
of
all
other
kinds of things
so
every 4 minutes,
so that you still get billed extra. Hey Matthew, I work for you, brother.
See how much you can run up the bill. It's actually a good challenge.
Yeah,
the Bill Lucky Paper Challenge.
Yeah, air horns.
I don't think air horns is that expensive.
No.
You got to get more complicated.
Yeah, it's true.
No, it's the look up this obscure clip from YouTube.
Okay, actually, don't torture Matthew because I happen to know he's doing like a last minute edit this weekend. So
that's like a pretty good point.
Actually, don't torture him.
Yep.
That's actually a gift, Matthew. You can skip bleeping the swears.
So
hold on, I can introduce you.
This is crazy. I've never seen. No, we'll introduce me in just a second.
Yeah, I can get there eventually.
But I have never seen DD Megadoo before.
You had never seen it before?
No.
Oh, that was new to you.
Yeah, crazy.
Oh
right?
Man, it's so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, the person who had never seen DD Megadoo before is, of course, Patrick, the designated survivor of Lucky Paper Doherty.
How's it feel to be here on this podcast with the two of us and not just you?
Boys, I got to tell you, it feels great because for a while there, I feel like we were on a trajectory of doing maybe one a year or so. And it just feels nice that you had me back so soon after my last appearance.
I always love having you on.
Hey, I love to be here. I just kind of thought that maybe you were trying to temper it a little bit because there's some haters out
300
there.
300 episodes in, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Whatever.
Well, it feels great to be here. We had a big conversation about what would happen.
Just to be clear, there's way more lovers than there are haters.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say to the haters?
Yeah, well, I just shout out to that guy who called me broke dick Andrew Dice Clay or whatever the fuck he said, which was so funny.
We also, last time you were on, got somebody who, without knowing your interests, did refer to you as Patty the Baddie. And I was like, oh man, Patrick can't see that. He's going to inflate his ego too much.
Well, you know what that is, right?
Yeah, of course. It's a reference to that MMA dude or whatever.
To my guy, to my UFC guy. Who lost his first fight? Who lost his first fight in 8 years.
I was going to ask what the difference was between UFC and MMA, but I just don't care. So don't explain it.
I actually don't know either.
Good, great, awesome.
Yeah. Have you guys ever been in a fist fight?
No. And there was many times when I was a younger man.
Anthony's got a big smirk.
Anthony, you want to tell the story of your street fight?
No. One time I accidentally punched a kid in his mouth in middle school.
Oh,
for
disrespecting
your mother.
I have actually, it's kind of still there. A little scar the shape of his braces. But it was legitimately.
Wait, really?
It was legitimately an accident.
Oh, that's a good little scar.
Have
you told Patrick the story of that squirrel on the roof?
No.
That's the best fight you've been in.
We've already told that on the podcast.
It was probably 5 years ago.
It was about 5 years ago. Should we talk about Magic the Gathering?
No, you need to tell Patrick the story of your one fight, which was against a squirrel on a rooftop.
I was helping my mother with a garden project, so I was up on this trellis that was up on a second floor sort of balcony. So I was 2.5, 3 floors up, and this really, really mangy...
Anthony had a lot of floors on his house growing up. Don't ask about it.
Wait, did you have 4 stories?
No.
Had to think. Had to count them.
Did you have 3.5?
Look, so this extremely mangy looking squirrel rocks up and it's just hey, I'm gonna attack you. It was looking aggressive, and which
is as you I'm sure knew at the time because you're a smart man. Not a good sign.
Not a good sign.
Squirrels should not be aggressive.
It turns out actually,
yeah, totally.
Rabies.
Something might be going on here.
Rabies not. Well, it is 100% lethal. Very lethal if
except for that one lady.
Except for that one lady, yeah. But it's pretty much lethal if you don't get treated. But it turns out the treatment is
you have a 2-week window.
Successful, yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't know that.
Have either of you guys gotten rabies?
No. Did you know this about rabies though, Patrick?
No.
It's crazy. If you don't get treated, you just die. Except for one girl, they put in a coma for 9 months, a medical coma, and her body somehow beat it. But everyone else just dies if you don't get treated in a couple weeks.
So I was shit, the squirrel's going to
bite
me.
Write in if you're that girl and let us know how you're doing. Sorry, go on.
I was pretty convinced I was going to get bitten by the squirrel and die. I was holding a hammer for said yard work, and the squirrel leapt at my face, and my ninja-like reflexes allowed me to smash it out of the air with a hammer.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
Isn't that badass?
That's incredible.
Yeah. I was really freaked out.
When's the last time you killed an animal, Andy?
Probably a mouse 5 or 6 years ago in the house.
Was it upsetting?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last time I had to kill something was a rat, and it really really bothered me.
It's not nice.
It was at the bike shop probably about 5 years ago, and the cat had brought a rat back.
Ooh, like an injured rat?
And had like paralyzed it halfway.
Yeah, you gotta put it out of its misery.
He was literally like trying to army crawl his way to safety, and the cat just kept like batting it around. And so I took a bag and I pulled it outside, and I was just like, oh, I don't know how to do this. What do I do now?
The sad thing is, the most humane ways to do it are also the most viscerally upsetting.
Precisely.
Like, I have definitely seen people be like, I don't want to think about that. I'm just going to throw it in a body of water. I'm like, that's horribly cruel. You can't do that. You just have to...
It is pretty tough. It's too bad that I didn't have a hammer, or that you weren't around, so you couldn't have just come and hammered this rat to death.
I would struggle to do it if it was, not in
a life or death situation.
Self-defense.
So there was a 2x4
Mortal
leaning
Kombat.
up against the side of the trash can, and I was just
that
like...
to me feels less intimate than a hammer. I'd rather hit it with a 2x4.
I was like, okay, I guess I'm just going to crush this dude's head with a 2x4, and that's the right thing to do. And I like held the...
Do we need a trigger warning for the rest of this story?
Well, sure.
Okay, great. Trigger warning.
Matthew,
Trigger
put
warning.
those
Trigger warning for small
warning.
animal
Beginning
death.
of-
Trigger
Fast
warning.
forward 60 seconds if you don't want to hear the story of Patrick just snuffing the life out of this rat.
Which was, we all agree, the right thing to do.
for sure.
No, he was fucked up. But yeah, basically, I lifted the 2x4 up like long ways, and I decided to like smash its head.
Ooh.
Which I think was
making mochi.
the wrong thing to do. I think maybe I should have just laid it on top of its head and like jumped on it. I think that would have been like a surefire way to get it done. But I brought the 2x4 down long ways, and instead of smashing its head, I accidentally bisected it. And there was like, it like exploded. It like popped, and there was like a blood mist that sprayed all over my face.
No.
Yeah, the true story.
What kind of bag was it in?
It was so upsetting. No, I should have kept it in the bag.
Why did you keep it in the bag?
I used the bag to only carry it by the tail. I didn't put it in a bag.
No, you got to put it in a bag.
Yeah,
then
I really should.
Then you're just hitting a lump, and you can like,
in my defense, I've never killed anything with anything else before, so I didn't have a lot of experience, and it was kind of just all happening really fast. But yeah, it was awful. And then there was just like rat blood all over my face.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it was gnarly.
Can we talk more about the Pottery Studio? That was a more wholesome story.
So I was in the studio, and
a rat comes in.
big fucking
looking real mangy,
big fucking rat, and his legs are broken, and Anthony's there with a hammer. No, so I'm in the studio, and I like the process of doing pottery for a lot of different reasons, but one of the things I really do like is that it just feels playful in a way that reminds me, like, it's messy.
Not for everybody, but yeah, it can be.
Not for everybody, for sure.
I think we could say it's fundamentally a sort of messy endeavor.
Shots fired.
For sure.
No, and also maybe like, all the real ones out there will be like, well, you don't have to make too much of a mess. The better you get, and like, if you use too much water, this, that, and the other. But I don't know. It is messy. You're getting your hands in there, and it reminds me of the same thing that's satisfying about gardening. You know what I mean? Just having like, weird stuff underneath your fingernails as you're like creating. Yeah, exactly.
I got so much turmeric under my fingernails for people listening at home.
Yeah. Let me taste. Anyways, so
hot.
Yeah, so I am.
That was extremely Maddie Matheson of you.
Yeah. Hey, I love Maddie, and I hope I get fatter. I think that would be really good for me if I could just put on like an extra 100 pounds.
You have the charisma for it.
Yeah.
You have the charisma, and you have the body image for it. Like, if some people got to walk around with some extra weight on them, I think you would really carry it nicely.
My goal is to be like a 300-pound dude who's like tatted up. And the only thing is that I feel like I have to get over the hurdle of having a fat face. You know what I mean? You guys never thought about this?
No, I've never thought about this. Just to be clear, none of this is fat phobic. All bodies are great. I'm just saying that some people do struggle with body image when they have more weight on them. I don't think you would. I think you would not struggle with that.
Yeah, you're right. I feel bad about saying that.
So it's messy.
I'm just moving. I wish you guys could see my... Anyway,
I wish you guys could see my skinny face. It looks so nice.
No, it's not. It's not that skinny. I also think it would be really cool if I could go bald and have like a big-ass beard.
Yeah, you could do that.
I like that look too.
You could take some testosterone. I think that makes you both go bald and grow more facial hair.
Should I take testosterone?
You could.
Oh, interesting.
Could be cool.
Hey, do you know what we should do? I think this is a really good idea that I just thought of. I think the three of us should get our T levels measured.
I think you've literally said this on the podcast before.
So what did we decide? It's a good idea.
I have trans friends and I've like talked to them about their medical lives, and like I genuinely would love to be tested for all those hormones because I think it's illuminating to know what weird, mysterious chemicals are dictating your entire lived experience. Like, but they won't do that unless you're getting like gender affirming care, generally speaking.
Dude, why do you have a blackface duck on your desk?
It's just a black duck. His whole body's black.
Dude, he's got like minstrel eyes. I think
there's a regular eyes.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna need you to drop a picture of that in the chat, and the chat can sound off whether this is problematic or not.
This is too.
I think
when
problematic.
He sees somebody with a Jeep that he wants to get canceled, he can just.
It was a gift from a friend that I taught about the idea of rubber duck debugging.
It's really sweet. And you know what's going to happen?
Oh.
2 years from now, I'm going to be in here, and on my way out, I'm going to take a picture of that duck, and I'm going to be like, that duck is actually really touching, and I'm sending it to Bernardo. And I'm going to mean it.
Okay.
So anyways, I was just really getting in there. I had both my hands in the slop, and I dipped it, and then I like had some blue that I was sort of like,
oh, with the glaze, yeah.
With the glaze, that was sort of flicking. And one of my classmates just said, I wish I could remember exactly what she said to me, but she basically, after watching me do this for half an hour, she was like,
you were flicking glaze on your thing for a half an hour?
No, I did
time.
I did 4 pieces.
Okay, gotcha.
I did 4 pieces, and I was dipping and flicking. I was dipping and flicking.
Now, can you stop hitting that cable with your hand?
As I'm wont to do. Why? What's wrong with that?
You can hear it on the mic.
Oh yeah, of course.
You hit it like 12 times.
No problem. I'd be happy to. La, 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 la. Anyway, so she said something like, I really appreciate how frivolous and chaotic you are with your glaze. And it just felt like a little like a backhanded compliment, but yeah, I'm just vibing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, Magic the Gathering is a collectible trading card game. We just got back from Shoebox in Minneapolis, St. Paul with a bunch of buds, and this is a classic tournament report where we are 20 minutes into the tournament report and have not talked about the tournament yet, but that's what you get when you get Patrick, designated survivor Doherty, on the show.
I think that's kind of the format of a lot of successful podcasts.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's what I like in podcasts.
I think that's okay.
Now, to be clear, a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people like podcasts that are about something,
a lot of people
and they
can
stay
go
focused.
Fuck themselves.
And that is not what I like in podcasts, so it's not what I strive for.
So we had
really
a conversation
on my favorite podcast. One of my favorites, Cooking Issues, where they've started just like they got to end the show. They just start playing the outro music in the studio just to be like, Dave, you got to shut up. Like, this is the end of the podcast. No, I mean, they cut him off, but it's like when the outro music starts playing, he's like, oh shit. And like it hammers the guest with like 20 questions all at once.
Nice.
It's like, yeah, we finally got to get to the topic.
No, this is the kind of show I like to make.
That can be a goal of ours, is that one tournament report, we can actually just cram the tournament report in the last 5 minutes.
Oh, I see. Yes, that's a better goal. I thought you were going to say we could actually be on topic for once. So
No,
I don't like
of course
that idea.
Not. So you two and myself actually flew back to Baltimore in what was not as big of a storm as they were freaking out about, but
yeah, both the storm both in Minneapolis and in Baltimore, there was a storm on both sides, was not as big as they expected on either side. Turns out that somebody defunded all of the all the weather reporting companies.
Because we don't want to know that vaccines worked and that climate change is real.
Yeah, so all the weather reporting systems are all underfunded now and just reporting bad numbers and are not reviewed, and so we don't have no idea how big any storm is going to be anymore.
What a world to live in!
I actually didn't realize that was what had happened, but it does make sense.
No, I've gotten done some reading on the r/meteorology, and everyone there is freaking out because now all of the reports from like NOAA and stuff just have a much wider range of like possible outcomes. Like they just don't know anymore because I think some reporting agencies have been shut down and some of the people that analyze the numbers are no longer working there, and so it's just like, well, it's either going to snow 1 inch or 29 inches, and that causes like sensationalist people to write like 29-inch storm incoming, and then everyone's like, I mean, probably not, but we actually don't know anymore. Pretty cool.
It did kind of seem like everybody was freaking out this weekend. But anyway, this is all
not
just
me.
to say.
I'm not freaking out. I'm totally cool.
I took an earlier flight. Brett and I were on an earlier flight, and we had a conversation the morning that we left about how it was actually ideal, because if your plane goes down, Parker and I would have been able to carry the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony and I try to avoid flying on the same plane, just like, parents try to avoid flying on the same plane when they have kids.
Yeah, for this very reason.
Yeah. We make sure that our child isn't left parentless.
It's actually funny to think
you're the godfather of Lucky Paper Radio.
Without a doubt. And also, I'm happy to report that 6 years into this project, I'm still taking credit at events whenever I meet somebody
love
new.
It so much.
I love saying we really appreciate your listenership.
I love when someone says something to like me and you're around, and then you just pop in before I responded and are like, "Thank you so much. It's so nice. We work really hard behind the scenes," and they kind of look at you like, "Who? Okay."
We've probably discussed this before, but in a normal and healthy way, I think the both of you have also struggled a little bit with how weird that can feel.
I think I've gotten a lot better at it, but
I think you have as well. So, anyways,
how weird your thing is, or when somebody comes up and
no, just how weird it can be to be low-key famous and to be like idolized at an event. So I think it's nice to have me as a buffer to sort of be like.
Also, I think people have gotten better about it. Like the worst thing is when people expect that because I met them 3 years ago at an event that I will still remember them. Sorry.
Does that happen?
It used to happen a lot where people would be like, "Hey, I'm so and so," and I'd be like, "Nice to meet you." They'd be like, "Actually, we played 2.5 years ago at CubeCon," and I'd be like, "Okay, sorry."
Yeah, that's
not comfortable for either of us in this moment. People don't do that anymore as much, which is nice.
Speaks to a general lack of awareness that probably happens in their life in other ways too.
I think we just talked about parasocial relationships in the show enough that if you listen a lot, you're aware that Anyway, people are great. We love meeting all the fans at Shoebox. It's really nice to see everybody there. Let's talk Magic though, for real. Come on.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm happy
come
to.
on,
I'm happy to, and I
like all the drafts I did this weekend.
I'm happy to, and I'm also going to say I decided on my way over here this morning, I'm not going to talk about any of the specifics of my Magic.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, all I care about, first of all, we have a lot of drafts between us, and we're already a half hour into this thing.
Yeah.
I just care about the broad strokes of what you enjoyed, didn't enjoy. I don't need to hear like blow by blow game reports or like match records or anything.
Yeah. I'm going to try that on this week, and we're going to see how it feels. I think it might be good.
How many drafts do you want to talk about, each of you?
At least one.
Okay. Well, that's
2, 3.
I don't know. Actually, no. I'll talk about one.
Okay, well, I do want to mention, I think, all 4 of mine, so I guess I'll go first, because I have more drafts to talk about. First draft of the weekend for me was Artie's Cube. Artemis, a.k.a. Artie, is someone that I met at CubeCon last year, and then saw again at this event. Really enjoy their whole vibe. This is like their kind of pet card cube, which I really thought was great vibes. It was mostly, common and uncommon power level cards with the occasional, like, splashy rare, and it felt... It seems like an insult to say this, but it's truly not. It felt like it was kind of under-designed in the sense that it was just like, here's fun cards that I like.
You could say not over-designed.
Not over-designed, sure, let's say that. It didn't feel like the thing that Richard Garfield described as like someone had like sanded all the edges off.
You've tuned out all the really fun, exciting moments because they were too crazy.
But it also means that you as a player get to be like, actually, I think this card's broken and I'm going to like try and prove it. And like that can be fun rather than, having the expectation when you go into a cube draft that like nothing's going to be broken and therefore everyone's going to be like playing on exactly the same power level. I pretty early on in the draft decided that I wanted to be generating card advantage was like my whole focus. And so I ended up in a Bant deck that had as many like 2-for-1s as I could get my hands on. Creature heavy Bant deck, and I got sort of a late Soul Herder that was really important to my whole vibe and was a powerful card in my deck. And I ended up going all the way to the finals and playing against friend of the show, Jane, in the finals. And Jane was on some sort of aggro deck, if memory serves. And I did manage to get there. My first draft of the weekend, got the 3-0 and had a great time. I will say the one card that really impressed me that I knew was a power outlier, and it just felt kind of off on vibes for me, was Endurance was in this cube. And otherwise like a regular kind of cube power level environment. And there's not a lot of graveyard stuff. So like the graveyard matters thing was not super important here, but 3-mana, 3/4 flash reach is just nuts.
Just like the ceiling, just the stats on the card were enough to make it feel out of place.
The flash also, in an environment where everyone's getting in creature combat, it was a 2-for-1 every single time I played it. Like, I played it as a 3/4, I ate an attacker, and was left with a 3/4 body for 3 with reach, which is already a really strong body, and just that felt nuts.
It's 3 minutes, 1 green.
1 green.
Yeah, that's pretty
3/4
good.
with reach, flash, and additional upside.
Yeah, I mean, if you can cast that reliably, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that was the best card in my deck, and yeah, I just had a good time sort of chaining together value cards, and then when the board got answered, playing a Hooting Mandrills or a Factor Fiction to refill. But I really love the cube. It's a perfect way to start the weekend. Almost every card I knew the rules text of, which is the other thing I really appreciate when I get to play a cube and don't have to read a bunch of new cards. It was also not the kind of deck I tend to like to draft. I think I started this draft by taking fetch land, deep analysis, Factor Fiction, and was like, I'll be doing some classic red-blue Andy nonsense or blue-white control or something. And then I just got past a ton of green cards and was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to be a mid-range deck. Anyway, great cube. Artie, if you're listening, loved it. And winner got to alter a card in their pool, and the card which really overperformed for me was Good Fortune Unicorn.
Was classic.
Was really, really strong.
I don't know it.
It's just a 3-mana 2/2 in green-white that every other creature enters with a +1/+1 counter on it you cast or play, so it counts tokens as well. And I had a couple ways to generate tokens and a bunch of like Elvish Visionary style cards that just all of a sudden became real threats with the Good Fortune Unicorn. So I altered that one and I gave it a little speech bubble that just said cut endurance. So,
That makes sense.
Sick.
Do we even talk about what the event was? I guess we talked about it last week with Greg a bit, but...
Yeah, I mean, Shoebox is a casual Magic event. There's not a lot of people doing big-scale events that are focused on casual Magic. So every format played there was pretty much a format that is under-supported or completely unrecognized by Wizards, essentially. Cube, obviously. There was Team Sealed. There was Pauper as sort of like structured events. There's also a structured CEDH event. And then on top of that, there was a ton of other things like Dan and Pre-Modern, Value Vintage, and a ton of other sort of Dan-esque battle box style things that were available in the carnival. Just basically like all the fun ways to play whatever kind of Magic you like that Wizards doesn't really care about.
Yeah, and there were also some artists and vendors and other stuff happening, and it was like, I think, really a celebration of that kind of casual way to play Magic, and I think that aspect of it, it was super, super successful.
I really loved having the vendors there.
Yeah, for some specific reasons.
Well, yeah, we'll get there eventually. I am not like an overly sentimental person, I don't think, but I really love acquiring cards for cubes at events like that rather than like going on, some stupid website and just adding them to my cart. Like, it feels more like, oh, I found this, and like, here's a foil. Like, the card I'm most excited I picked up for the weekend is I was looking through some like bulk boxes for Take 5, which is my new cube I'm working on assembling in paper, and I found a foil Grove of the Guardian for 50 cents, and I was like, wait, this card's worth nothing, but like, how often do you stumble on a foil Grove of the Guardian? And it just felt so special to like get to just pick it up at an event and help one of the vendors instead of buying at some stupid website. So
that rocks.
I liked having the vendors there. Anyway, that was the event. That was my first draft, and had a great time.
Yeah. Also, I think we could just take a moment to say it seemed like it went really well this weekend.
Yeah, I think it definitely did.
Yeah.
I know the organizers, and obviously the classic thing is that the organizers see everything that goes wrong over the weekend, and they always feel like it's a mad rush, and they're always trying to patch things up, and everybody that's there, 99% of them just see how great the event was. And I think the event really went off quite well, and they're planning on running it back next year. So that's the best thing you could possibly want to hear.
And maybe even a couple months more into the spring.
I think they are going to bump it back to avoid potential blizzards.
Yeah.
I was really genuinely depressed because we talked how I never check the weather when I am traveling somewhere, which is maybe something I should do.
Or in
my day-to-day life. I just don't check the weather. It'll be what it'll be. It's fine. And we had a beautiful week here in Baltimore where it was like mid-70s, unseasonably warm.
The crocuses are all emerging, first flower of spring.
And then Jane, who also attends the event, sent me a screenshot of the weather for Minneapolis, and it was like low of 6, high of 22 for like the 5 days we were there, and I was so depressed. It was really upsetting. But turns out it's fine weather to sit inside and play Magic all day.
It was a gorgeous snowy view from Airbnb.
We also got a shout out. We were in a little McMansion. We were in an incredible McMansion.
The house was beautiful.
Yeah.
Really,
How many
really
floors
nice.
are in that house?
3 whole floors. Yeah.
Oh, now we're
3.5
gatekeeping floors.
Yeah.
No. We're celebrating floors.
It was just maybe the nicest Airbnb I've ever been in.
It was.
It absolutely was.
In terms of the space and like the number of towels available, was really.
I mean, I was really struck by that. Who cares? But like, there's no reason for them to do that. They could charge just as much for the Airbnb if they did what every other Airbnb does, which is like you get to the kitchen and there's just 3 stale things of time and nothing else. And you go into each bathroom and there's 1 towel and nothing else, but like so well appointed and very thoroughly sort of taken care of.
It makes a difference, and I hope we'll be back.
I hope so too.
Yeah, it really looked like a beautiful painting looking at that huge 8-foot glass window.
Looks
with
right
the
over
snow
the
falling.
St. Paul
Yeah.
skyline.
Yeah, it was really lovely.
I'll also say about the event that, Andy, you did all of the graphic design for the pins, the play mats were like stuff that was really like cool and people are taking home with them.
You want to see my spreadsheet? I can name all the stuff. There's so many things.
Yeah, I mean, all the like, sure, list them. Go through your
all
spreadsheet.
All of the banners for the artists, all of the community artist signs, all of the community event signs, all of the table cards with all the numbers on them, all the badges, which there were 6 different badge types that you probably didn't see all of over the course of the weekend, the step and repeat, the 2 big meeting point signs, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something. All the posters too, the event poster, the schedule, the rules, the code of conduct, the media release, all that kind of stuff.
And I gotta say, I mean, I thought it all looked great, but I heard from numerous people, just like not even knowing that you designed it or that I was connected to you in any way. It's just like, man, the graphic design for this whole event is just so fucking spectacular.
Warms my heart.
And that's not a thing you normally hear people say, but like you just did an excellent job all around.
That's
and the
really
cohesiveness to it was really what made it work.
I did have my heart broken by the color of the judge shirts, and it's still haunting me.
Yeah,
you
they
have
were
one
not
thing
not
go
perfect.
wrong, but people see somebody with that color shirt at the judge stand or at the judge stage.
I don't think it functionally causes many problems
really did
as
not.
it really just made me upset because it would have looked so good in like the egg yolky orangey yellow I had spec'd. Yeah. But, there's a lot of stuff to try and coordinate. So
I hope you consider this to be a personal victory, but there were multiple times where I forgot that the Sharpie on my playmat wasn't the Sharpie and I tried to pick it up.
Oh, yeah, that got me at least once too.
Good, I'm glad. That was the other thing, is that the playmats ended up being a mad scramble at the end because of a vendor that shit the bed in a complicated way. But
yeah, that's the best story of the weekend, actually, maybe.
I don't know if Greg wants to share it, so I'm not going to go into details. But because there was a mad scramble at the end, the artwork also got scaled up slightly. So the Sharpie on the mat was like 5% too big, which I was also like, I was so careful to make it exactly the right size. But what are you going to do?
I guess talk about my first draft.
There you go.
Which was Eiganjo Drift, which is Judge Bones' cube that is all about vehicles. It's really vehicle focused.
I started calling Judge Bones JB this weekend.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
how does he feel
I bet he
about
didn't
that?
like it.
I was like, "What's up, JB?" And at first he was like, I don't know." And then I think
he was like, "No, absolutely not."
I think by the end he was still like, I don't know.
It's like he already sort of is full on the nickname situation.
Yeah.
I honestly struggled in this cube a lot, and I've actually played it twice before
and not
had
struggled
success.
before, right?
Yeah, I think the first time I drafted, I 3-0'd. There have been some changes to...
Did you have Shorekai in the first draft?
No. Judge Bones wouldn't do that.
Judge Bones, sound off in the comments. Has Shorekai ever been in Eiganjo
Judge
Drift?
Bones, would you ever do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just sort of was focused on the wrong things in this draft. Maybe I overthought it a little bit, where I was like, okay, I know there's going to be a lot of vehicles. I really want to make sure I have enough pilots, so I'm not, just like having my whole board taken apart by a single removal spell. So I was trying to take all these cheap creatures. And then when I got into games, people just had like bigger stuff than me, and I just like never had profitable blocks and just struggled a lot. I don't know. I'm excited to draft it again and try and do better. I guess I was also very focused on the fact that everybody starts with a mech hanger, which can tap for any color for vehicles and pilots. So any pilot that has just a single colored pip is free. And I was like really focused on that. And at the end of the draft had maybe 1 or 2 cards that actually could take advantage of that.
Even though you were really focused on it in the draft.
So I was like focusing on the wrong things and not paying attention to what I actually needed to, which was, I guess, vehicles that bring their own pilots and just put a ton of stats on the board. I also had a couple sort of Universes Beyond cards that I'd never seen before. And I'm like, oh, this is crazy. This has so many words on it and it's all upside. These are going to be fantastic, but it just took too much setup to make them work. So
something I deeply respect about Jane is that she literally doesn't read the Universes Beyond cards in any draft. Like, she will not read them. They'll be in her colors, and she's like, I'm not reading that. I don't care. And
yeah, I hate to say it,
it's a huge handicap, but she's just like, I'm just not doing it.
I read a Ninja Turtle this weekend, and it was fine.
I read a couple. It was fine.
But not that many, I respect so much of the Cube community for just not putting that many turtles in their cubes.
What do you mean it was fine? You're saying like it was okay that you read it, or the card was just mid? Or both?
All of the above. Yeah. Anyway, so that was my first draft. I ended up 2-1. Congratulations to Joe, who crushed me, but I got to see him again.
Wait, you ended up 2-1 after saying
Not
you really
2-1,
struggled?
1-2.
Okay, I was going to say, don't say you really struggled and then spit out a 2-1 at us.
Good catch. How about you? What was your first draft? Or first you want to talk about, Patrick?
I think...
You don't want to talk about it.
No,
you already said this. Sorry.
I don't give a shit. Well, you know what? And honestly, here's what I will say.
I know it's one draft you definitely want to talk about.
Here's what I will say. I will say, and I feel like I say this a lot, which makes me... is kind of funny, but I think
don't kill yourself.
I think I maybe don't kill yourself. I am always saying that. Hey, I'll have you know that I had multiple people reach out to me after that last episode and thank me for that sentiment.
I also did.
So it's an evergreen sentiment, and if you're struggling, DM me directly or reach out to somebody. We can always chat. People are around. Mm-hmm. But any old ways. I was just going to say I think I did better at this event than I have at previous events. And that was nice. But I also really enjoyed kind of just making a decision of not like taking notes and trying to be so focused on everything for a report back, but just kind of like being in the experience.
Yeah, vibe it out.
The draft that I do want to talk about, though, is I had a ton of fun drafting Morgan's Boudica cube.
You want to jump right to that one? Do you not want to talk about the, was it Aqua's cube you drafted, or was it Alternate Vintage? Which was the powered cube you drafted?
Okay, well,
it's up to you. If you don't want to talk about it, but you seemed excited about that draft.
Yeah,
we're bubbling about that.
I got
deck.
cued into Aqua's vintage powered custom
all
illustrated
the good
cards cube because I just went full random and I just had more fun than I thought. I had more fun than I've had in recent memory drafting a powered vintage cube.
Do you know what made it more fun than other experiences drafting powered vintage cube for you recently?
I did well.
I mean, that's fair.
It's just funny,
totally
too,
fair.
because I feel like we had a really good conversation about it last time I was on, and I've been thinking about it more often, and it's just like, I don't actually have anything new to say, and I don't really know how to, like, reconcile, but it just, like, it's kind of annoying to me that I have more fun when I'm being more successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
Something I've been working on is trying to accept that I don't like certain things about my like way of being, but just trying to be at peace with them anyway, you know? Like even like something like my sweet tooth. I love eating sugar, and it's just I always feel bad about it. And I'm trying to just be like, you know what? That's actually fine. Who cares?
That's actually kind of beautiful. So you're just saying trying to be at peace with it as opposed to like constantly trying to like tweak or adjust it or control it.
Or just being upset about it. Like, you know, just feeling guilty about eating sugar or feeling bad about feeling good when I win instead of, you know, when I lose, you know, just that I'm trying to be okay with that, you know?
Yeah. I've been having a tough week.
Have you? Are you all right?
I'm okay. I've been having a pretty tough week.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I'm about to start talking about it in the middle of the tournament report. I've been thinking a lot about my my impulsivity. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm almost 35 years old, and I still really have just sort of an impulsive nature.
Do you feel like it's a bad thing?
Well, I feel like it's gotten me into a lot of trouble in my life. And I feel like specifically this week, a couple things happened interpersonally where my impulsivity led me to feeling as if I was being pretty inconsiderate with some of the people that I care about. And it's just interesting. It's funny. I'm just trying to reconcile all of that within myself. I think that on average, I've done a ton of growing, and every year's been better than the last. And I can really
You're
say,
a grower, not a shower.
I can really say that's what we're always saying. Mm-hmm. I can really say with certainty that I'm doing better than I ever have been, mental health wise, in general, in every way. And at the same time, it can still just be difficult because I just get excited, and I just
which I think is a beautiful trait of yours.
Stuff sometimes.
I think it's really nice that you get excited about stuff, and I think a lot of people when they age lose that like visceral childlike excitement about something, and so it's a good thing to hang on to, and also to be circumspect about.
I love like a child and act like a puppy dog in a lot of ways, but it's one of those things where
I beating you with a newspaper,
bad,
rubbing your nose in the carpet,
me only getting a little turned on by this whole dynamic that you've just proposed to me now. I do
Patrick
think
puppy girl arc.
I think that I also just want to try and slow down and be a little bit more intentional. That's all. Traditionally, it's felt like a huge source of my my like, dare I say, whatever, like power or strength to be able to be open. Mm-hmm. And I've just been having a lot of these moments this year where it's like, oh, right, I don't just like have to tell everyone everything when I'm feeling it, even though it's been really important for me in the past.
You and I can unpack that because I'm a big tell everybody everything all the time guy. I think 99% of the time it's actually good and you know, a virtue to do such a thing. But every once in a while it's like, maybe not that one, you know? And it's hard for me.
I mean, I do appreciate that about you as well. And I think that like on our best days, it really does feel like a boon. But some days it just can be difficult.
Yeah.
So anyways,
my second draft of the weekend,
were we talking about?
My second draft of the weekend was Lincoln's Penrose cube, which was in the main event.
Ooh, I like that cube.
I do like this cube. I've played it once before. I don't think any more than once before. It's a color imbalanced cube that leans like mostly Grixis and also doesn't have any tokens, doesn't have any counters, which by virtue of those things plays out more simply than a lot of cubes. But I will say I've always referred to this cube as a testament to how much complexity you can still have in Magic without any counters or tokens, because it is quite complicated. It's a very synergistic cube. And this draft really highlighted one of my big flaws as a drafter, which I'm aware of, but it's hard for me to sort of break out of a pattern of, which is that I draft too disciplined or too conservatively very often. I'm notorious for getting to the end of the draft and having taken, you know, maybe one too many fixing lands when I should have taken another bomb in my colors, or I'm notorious for, you know, only playing 2 colors so my mana is better instead of maybe a ambitious splash, when actually that's probably the best thing to do at the end of the day, you know, in terms of power level. And in this case, it came up because in pack 1 and like the first half of pack 2, I was seeing a lot of solid B plus playables that I was excited to take. I was taking cards like Mull Drifter, like Cloud Concealer, like Grafted War Gear, and I was like, these cards are just always good. And what I was passing was synergistic cards that are usually, you know, Ds, but sometimes As. And I was like, I'd rather have the sort of safe, reliable thing. And then especially in the second half of the draft, I really got punished for not having taken any of those synergistic cards, because it became very clear that I was in red-blue, and it became very clear that I kind of really needed to be doing either an artifact synergy of some kind or a like madness synergy of some kind. And the truth was that I didn't have enough ways to enable either, because I had taken all these sort of generically fine playable cards that were not extremely good, but were fine. And so I ended up with a deck that I technically went 1-2, but it was a bye. I went 0-2. I lost both my matches, one against the designer of the cube and one against another player. And I won some games. There were some games where I got to put Grafted War Gear on a flyer and just beat down. But the truth was I probably had like 7 cards in my main deck that were like, this was really not the deck for them. I needed to be playing an artifact deck or a madness deck for those cards to be worth a card in this environment. And I just wasn't. So I was playing my containment construct with almost no ways to discard. I was playing a bunch of like aggro 1-drops that really want to be in an artifact shell because they're artifact creatures that in this shell were just not really getting there. A Thought Scour that I had almost no ways to benefit from, save for one magmatic sinkhole, like just kind of patched together a deck that didn't understand the prompt. And so in hindsight, I should have not been so allergic to synergy, but this is a thing that I am aware of as a weakness of mine as a drafter. And a great example of like the first draft of the weekend, I got incredibly rewarded for drafting the same way. I was like, just give me like solid cards. I don't want anything risky. I want like good 2-for-1s, whatever. And in this draft, I got incredibly punished for drafting that exact way because this particular environment is, I think, more synergistic and more punishing to not drafting a coherent strategy.
Is that something you either knew going into this draft? Did you feel like you were picking up signals during the draft, or did you just have to like play through the games to figure that out?
I knew in the second half of the draft, I was like, well, here's 4 on-color cards for my deck, and they're all terrible in my deck because I don't have a madness synergy and I don't have an artifact synergy.
Interesting. So it's more just like...
I knew part of the way through the draft. And to be fair, I would imagine you still could draft a like less synergistic version of one of these decks here.
Right.
Like, I don't think all the decks have to be all in on synergy. I just wasn't in on synergy enough at my seat to make this work.
Right. So you felt like you were running out of those high floor cards very soon.
Yes.
And
I saw them all in like the first pack
yeah.
and the first half of pack 2, and I was like, okay, I'm doing all right. And then they just completely dried up, and my colors were open enough, but the cards were just not playable in my deck because of choices I made previously in the draft. So that's where I was. Sacrificing is the other sort of thing. I mean, Sacrifice is really more in red, black, but there were a lot of like Sacrifice Matters cards that I saw in red that I was like, I'm not that deck either. I'm none of these decks. I'm just a fair tempo blue-red deck, and that's, I don't think, really a thing there so much. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny, there's also, I'm just looking through the list, cards like Tortured Existence, which just is a card that does nothing unless it does something very specific. That's a card I sure wish I'd taken in another draft later in the weekend.
So yeah.
What is Tortured Existence? What does
you
it do?
can swap a creature in your hand with a creature in your graveyard.
For mana.
For a mana. It's an enchantment. You do that as much as you want. So if you have anything that cares about creatures leaving the graveyard, it's like the most ridiculous enabler.
Or more importantly, like if you have creatures with really good ETBs and like a sack deck, you know, you could just be like, I cast Eternal Witness every single turn because I'm, you know, sacrificing it for some value, and then I also get it back, and then
that does sound cool.
Yeah, sick.
Keep generating card advantage. But, you know, it's a card that does nothing. You have to do a lot, I think, to recoup the one card it costs you to play the Tortex, but once you've done that, then it can really become a pretty insane value engine. So, yeah, like I said, 6 or 7 main deck cards that I was like, I wish this was anything else, but it's not. Still a great cube.
So I, as I usually do, went full random in this event, except for excluding some of the cubes that I'd played most recently. So I randomed for my second round into the HeatherCube, which I knew nothing about, and was just like, HeatherCube, that could be anything at all. Opened up the list, and it was just all these, like, 2015 bangers, and it was fantastic. It was just, like, all cards I knew, especially after, like, all the heavy reading in my first draft. I was just like, hell yeah, Restoration Angel. I don't have to read this card even at all.
Tries to flicker an angel.
Of course. So I even pack one, pick one. Tell me if this is a mistake. It's a mistake. I think the 2 cards I was looking at were Restoration Angel and Jace the Mind Sculptor. I was just like, I don't know how to play Jace the Mind Sculptor. I don't know how to win I can't 3-0 a cube with Jace the Mind Sculptor.
I don't think that's a mistake at all. I think the more I've, aged as a player and as a cube drafter, it's like, I'm so much happier to do something that I feel like I know than something I feel like I am not good at piloting or drafting a deck and building around. And I think those cards are like, if you were to put them in the fucking 17 lands, card in hand win percentage, I don't think they'd be that far off. And when you have this sort of tiebreaker of how capable you feel about playing white decks and how paralyzed you feel by playing a Jace the Mind Sculptor deck, I think that's a perfectly reasonable pick.
Yeah, I mean, and not that I don't also enjoy trying new things and pushing my limits, but we're doing 4 or 5 drafts in a weekend here. It's like, let's do something a little more close to home. This draft, I don't know how to say enough nice things about all the gameplay, and just it was just good, clean, classic cube.
I heard a lot of positive things about this cube over the weekend.
My first match, I was playing against somebody who had a red, blue, just tons and tons of counter spells and burn spells. They just absolutely stomped me in the first game.
My hero.
Great job, Brian. I did not have a chance. They just countered everything that mattered. Second game, I think I played pretty well. I sort of leaned into, okay, the thing that matters about this matchup is not necessarily tempo. It's not about beating them quickly. It's about how do I make every single one of their counter spells matter? How do I just churn them through resources? So I think I had a Splash Lingering Souls. Great. Eats 2 of their counter spells. The dragon that has plane cycling, I was like, you know what? every other matchup, I plan on cycling this and casting on turn 4. Here, I just need this to eat 2 of their removal spells or 2 of their counter spells. And really focusing on that, I managed to very closely get the second game. And then the third game was fascinating because they did everything and we were both like, well, this game is pretty much over. And then I surprised us both by somehow winning. I had this card that was a little bit like Batterskull, but you had to sacrifice a creature to equip it. So this whole game came down to like, can you
had a lot of equipment in this deck. You showed me the list.
A lot of equipment, which felt really bad against all the counter spells. It's like, sure, you can let me resolve my grafted war gear and my whatever dissection tools.
You're in a 100 Ornithopter problem.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have everything but a creature.
But I just had this board state where I was like, okay, well, you're going to kill me with 2 huge dragons in the air. This lifelink is the only thing that's going to keep me alive. It's going to force you to actually start blocking at some point, and just being able to navigate this board state of eventually having I think it was a small creature with a lion sash with like 5 counters on it, and a chainsaw that had 5 rev counters on it.
Well, if you had lion sash, you had a creature the whole time.
I had a creature eventually. I had to like sacrifice my something else that I cared about in order to be able to equip other stuff to the lion sash. Who can remember? It was great. I just gained 20 life in a turn, and
big smile on your face.
Yeah. I mean, what is more fun than just being like, this match is completely over, and then somehow finding a way to thread that needle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So really enjoyable match. My second 2 opponents were both on green decks, and I feel like I just like was able to curve out very consistently and really enjoyed again in the finals. My opponent played a Siege Rhino on turn 4 after I was curving out with creatures, and I was like, you know what? The Siege Rhino is kind of a problem, but if I just rip the Grafted War Gear right here to put on my Brimaz, I'm going to be way ahead, and I drew exactly that. So I think I played pretty skillfully maybe in the first match, and then I got extremely lucky in the finals, and I'm going to take credit for both of those experiences.
Gotta play skillfully to put yourself in a situation to get lucky.
You just gotta get lucky.
If you don't want to talk about anything else but Boudica, let's talk about the Stone Soup that you and I did, Anthony, because that's my next draft for the weekend. Stone Soup we've talked about in the show before. Basically, any number of players each bring 45 cards of their own choosing and some basic lands. You shuffle everyone's cards all together and basically build an ad hoc cube for one draft. This particular Stone Soup was an unsleeved, take the cards you draft Stone Soup, so no one was bringing, their valuable collection to be then recollected at the end of the draft. It was just you go home with whatever cards you end up drafting. And we ended up
people brought some spicy things.
Yeah, I threw a couple spicy things in there too. I was like, if someone wants this Mark Tadine signed Nevin Ridgel's disc, let's have it. It's yours. I'm not a big signed card person. I don't even know how I got that card, to be honest. Anyway, we ended up in a 16 pod. There was exactly 16 of us. We were like, should we do 2 pods? And then we were like, no, we shouldn't do 2 pods. It's way more fun to see more cards of the sort of collections everyone had brought. So 16 people in one giant Stone Soup, which means you're also not wheeling a single card out of any pack. Now, for my part, I brought a Stone Soup pool that broke Singleton for a couple cards. I brought, I think, 7 Ash Barons, which is how many I could find in my stack of lands, just to contribute some fixing to the draft. I also brought 6 copies of Accumulated Knowledge, which is all the accumulated knowledges I could find to put my hands on.
Every one you could accumulate?
For those who don't know, Accumulated Knowledge is 1 in a blue, instant, draw a card, and then also draw an additional card for each card named Accumulated Knowledge in any graveyard. I truly brought these with the idea that somebody else would get to live this dream. It's a 16-person pod. I did not expect to draft my own Accumulated Knowledges. Halfway through pack 1...
It was a 16-person pod?
Yeah.
Okay.
Halfway through pack 1, I see the first Accumulated Knowledge. I'm in blue. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to take it.
Everybody else has seen it and thought, well, that card seems bad as a one of.
Yes, which, I mean, to be clear, there's no expectation that everyone's bringing Singleton pools. Sometimes people do play that way. You're supposed to bring a Singleton pool. This was not the expectation here, and I know that people book Singleton for other things. So I took one of them, and I ended up getting 5 of the 6 because nobody else wanted them. One other player had taken one speculatively, and then I guess didn't prioritize other ones or didn't see other ones. And I ended up drafting, I love Stone Soup so much, and I feel like I always end up drafting like one of the coolest decks I've ever drafted in a Stone Soup thing. And this was a Jeskai control deck with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 non-basic lands, which is also shocking to have 12 non-basic lands in a Stone Soup because people tend to not like to bring non-basics, I think, because it's not as fun.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I've actually been in some Stone Soup where everybody was like, less lands next time. I didn't have playables. I think it really depends on your playgroup.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on context, but I was getting tons of fixing, tons of accumulated knowledges, which is the only card advantage engine you need, really, and then tons of really strong removal spells, and the fact that I was in 3 colors helped because I could take all the ones that got passed to me. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 targeted removal spells, 1 board wipe, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 counter spells. And I was like, maybe I can do a like really low win condition hard Jeskai control thing. And we're getting late in the draft. It's pack 3. I still kind of have no win condition. I did pick up a speculative Gaia's Blessing in pack 2 because there was nothing in the pack for me, and I was like, maybe there's a world where I end up looping myself with Gaia's Blessing. Pack 3, I'm just waiting for like a good, reliable win condition to come to me, and it's still not coming. I pick up Tameo Meets the Story Circle, which does some stuff in the first 2 chapters. It's a saga. The important part is the 3rd chapter is you shuffle 3 cards from your graveyard into your library, 4 cards from your graveyard into your library, which now meant that I had a win condition with Gaia's Blessing and Tameo Meets the Story Circle shuffling each other back in. I ended up in the very tail end of pack 3 also picking up a Dreamtide Whale, which is exactly the kind of win condition I'd like to have. But my deck was mono removal card draw and counter spells, plus Gaia's Blessing, Tameo Meets the Story Circle, which is also card draw, and Dreamtide Whale. And I think his deck was actually very, very strong, and I ended up having a pretty terrible record. I think I went 1-3 after playing 4 matches, and I genuinely think it was like just bad luck. I was actually thinking the whole time during this draft about our conversation about empiricism and epistemology and magic, and I was like, I do think this was a good deck. Playing it also convinced me it was a good deck, and also multiple times I was in a situation where I would have won, except Tameo Meets the Story Circle was in the bottom 2 cards of my library. In 2 separate games, I lost because it was in the bottom 2 cards of my library. Therefore, I didn't have time to reshuffle the cards with Tameo Meets the Story Circle to actually survive long enough. And the games I ended up winning, I did end up looping my graveyard and winning 2 games that way, and I won 2 games by just playing a Dreamtide Whale and protecting it and having it go the distance. But I had multiple games where I just locked my opponent out and was like, I have enough counter spells and removal for anything you play. And they were just like, fine, great. And then I just decked myself because Tameo Meets the Story Circle was in the bottom cards of my library.
Great. This is no problem. I will simply let you lose.
But I love playing this deck. I think it was a really sick draft. I had 2 green fixing lands that I played to play the Gaia's Blessing. I had 1 green-white land and 1 green-blue land. And I was like, I don't have to cast this early. I'm only casting this when I'm looping my library, so I don't need any more. And yeah, it was just super fun. And I love Stone Soup drafts. I feel a little bad that I got all my accumulated knowledges, but
honestly, I think you should feel a little bit bad.
But it also enabled this cool deck, which I don't think would have worked absent accumulated knowledges, because I really needed card advantage engines, and I didn't see other ones that were particularly powerful.
Man, I just got to say, the one game that I came over and watched over your shoulder was fucking electric.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was a game that you won with 1 card in your library, and you were just fighting. And like
that particular game, I won with the whale because I also, again, had the situation where I would have lost because of Tameo Meets the Story.
You're like, plan B, attack you with my 7/5.
And actually, when you think about it, those cards they can loop infinitely, but they're very unlikely to, because once your library is that small, then Tameo Meets the Story Circle is very likely to be in the bottom cards of your library. But still, if you like draw both of them in the mid game, you should be able to just essentially loop them for a very, very long time, because you only go down 1 card in the exchange as you're looping them, but they were in the bottom of my library so much. In that game, I only snuck by because I drew the whale in time. It was also near the bottom cards of my library. Drew the whale in time to have just enough hits before I decked myself, which was kind of crazy.
Also, don't forget to mention your counterspell.
Yeah, 2 other things to mention about this draft. Jane included some Sharpied cards in a Lore Seeker pack and was clear during the draft, like, look, ask your opponents before you play with these Sharpied cards, but also they're not broken. And one of the Sharpied cards was a Grip of Amnesia, which I actually don't know what it does if it's not Sharpied. What this one did was just counter a spell for 1 and a blue, but you have to draw your ass. And so at the end of the draft, I had like 7 copies of my ass drawn on this card because I was casting this counterspell. I asked my opponents first if I could play it. The other funny card I had was a playtester mystery booster.
Man. No, Grip of Amnesia is sick. It's counter target spell unless its controller exiles all cards from their graveyard.
Okay, I do remember this one.
I had this in a sideboard against somebody playing a Reanimator deck, and you draw a card.
So it's always a cantrip if there's a spell in the stack.
Yeah, but like they cast a reanimation spell, and I'm like, counter it unless you don't? It was great.
Incredible.
One time.
Yeah,
I lost that match so hard.
I also had a Mystery Booster playtest card called Marchesa's Surprise Party. I'm not going to read the text. It's kind of complicated. You can check it out on the cards mentioned page. But basically what it says is it's a conspiracy, which is, I think, broken. I took it very early thinking it was broken. Basically what this card says is it draws you 1 card in the mid-game if you meet some condition of your choosing. And it felt like a very balanced conspiracy. If you want to play with conspiracies, I recommend checking out Marchesa's Surprise Party. It asks you to fulfill one of these 3 conditions, and when you do, you turn it face down and draw a card, which is reasonable for a conspiracy. It's funny comparing that to like a regular companion, which is just an 8th card you get every game no matter what. Here's an 8th card that you get maybe in the mid game or late game if you satisfy a condition was a cool thing to do. And if I picked it up
pretty busted.
If I picked it up earlier, being able to build around one of those conditions to flip it might have made it a lot stronger. Like if I had a self-mill deck, you could fulfill the cards in graveyard condition much more soon and maybe it'd be more broken, but it felt balanced to me in this particular draft. More data is probably needed, but if you like conspiracies, maybe try that one instead of any of the actual conspiracies printed in Conspiracy. All right, I talked too much about my stone soup. Anthony, how was your stone soup?
I had a blast. Like you, I enjoy stone soup. I picked one this insane blue enchantment I'd never seen before that like gives everybody a free spell every turn and draws you 7 cards. I think it like time twisters you. But then blue was very not open because you and Jane were both sitting to my right, and I was like, I'm not seeing a single blue card. Ended up drafting a small creature, black-white deck, which was a blast to play. I just felt like my card quality was really, really high, and I was just able to curve out. Had this 4/1 with Menace from EOE, which was very cool, and I got to like pacify a creature and then negate the downside of it. Stuff like that was very cool. I also had a Savine's Reclamation, which is that card's just kind of busted.
Savine's Reclamation's messed up.
And also an Auric Lore Mage that let me entomb it and also put a counter on it, and then just being able to entomb your Savine's Reclamation to draw 2 cards essentially was very, very cool. Beat my first 2 opponents pretty handily with just being able to curve out with a bunch of creatures, but also having like reasonable late game with some of those little card advantage engines. And then my final opponent, who was also playing black-white, had 2 copies of Lingering Souls, and that was very cool.
That, to me, way more offensive than 5 copies of Accumulated Knowledge.
Still cool,
I think
though.
they were brought by different people.
Yeah, they were in this case, yeah.
Sophie was my final opponent. Great job.
great job having 2 Lingering Souls. I also would have drafted and played
It was
them.
a great matchup, and it was cool to sort of play the mirror match in such a weird environment as a Stone Soup draft.
I really liked the Stone Soup where you don't wheel anything.
Yeah, and it was weird to be like, oh yeah, I switched out of blue because it wasn't open, but that was what was happening.
Just to be clear, I still think signals are just as relevant.
Yeah.
It's just that you're only getting a different kind of signal. Like, if going left blue isn't open, it doesn't tell you anything about the players to your left. Like, you have no idea what's going on with them because they're not seeing even remotely the same packs. But you can still learn what's open each direction, I think.
Left blue with none red.
None meat. None cheese.
I'd like to take a moment to shout out all my new friends.
Do it.
Okay, yeah. Matthew, I'm going to need you.
The new friend
Matthew, I'm going to need you
stinger.
to add a new friend stinger in here for me.
There's got to be some song from like a child's. I'll see if I can find a song from a children's show about friendship.
Okay,
and put it in here.
I just want to shout out
Got
to
a copyright strike.
Shout out to all my new friends at our Airbnb. Patrick and Spence from North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan and James from I don't remember where.
St. Louis.
St. Louis. Joe from San Francisco.
You want to hit us with their social security numbers and mother's maiden names while you're at it?
I'd be happy to. You can DM me directly. It was just great making new friends, hanging out with everybody.
It was a good squad.
Also, shout out to Wildflower.
Oh, hanging out with Wildflower is definitely one of the highlights of the weekend for me.
Yeah.
Wildflower's been on a previous bonus episode of this show, and to be honest, when we recorded that episode, I'd never met Wildflower, and I was a little bit like, recording a podcast episode with someone I don't know, what if the vibes are bad? And it turns out the vibes on the recording were good, and the vibes in person, even better. Wildflower was a total delight.
There was a pretty big blizzard, as we mentioned, and we were talking about, like, who can drive? Can we make it to the event at all today for day 3? Wildflower was like, well, you know what? When I learned to drive, my mother drove out into the middle of a frozen lake and put me in the driver's seat and said, go nuts. Just like have fun.
That sounds so fun.
And I wasn't sure if it was going to be like, is that cool? Was this maybe kind of a bad thing? But no, it was great because she was just like, let's just get a feel for on this safe lake where there's nothing to crash into, get a feel for the ice. So Wildflower was very generous to drive us around, also grab some groceries and stuff. As soon as we got into the snowy, unplowed street, she was like, watch this.
Yeah, she ripped
Hold my beer.
She did a pretty cool donut that landed us
in a 2-wheel drive Prius, and we almost slammed into a curb.
As
it was
opposed
really
to all
funny.
the 4-wheel drive Priuses out there.
Yeah, I suppose so. You fucking asshole.
Anyway, we got the car out, and then immediately she put the car back into another sidewalk. And we pushed it out a second time, no problem. We're all very strong.
All right, I'm gonna tell this pizza story real quick.
Yeah, it's a good story.
All right, now insert the stinger for the Lewis Black style bit where I get irate about whatever's been happening in my life.
What was that bit called on?
I don't recall.
On Daily Show. Gosh, couldn't remember the name of the Daily Show.
We're so old that we're referencing the Daily Show and we can't remember the name.
Yeah,
of
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's tough. So anyways, we go, we decide to order pizza. We have a long day. I believe it's Saturday. And the blizzard's coming. The snow's hitting the ground. I'm calling pizza shops. Half of them are closed early. Half of them have an hour lead time to pick up a pie. We finally find this shop that's 10 minutes south of us in St. Paul. We order half a dozen pizzas. Brett and I head out to get it. We take Patrick's 4-wheel drive rental. The snow is hitting the ground, and
we need the 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, let's just say we needed the 4-wheel drive, and we get out there, and it's just one guy in this fucking little tiny shack that's on the side of the road. He's like sweating in there. He's in a t-shirt. He's got fucking like 2 big hot stove ovens. He's running around. He's only got the type of door that just opens the top half.
Little Dutch door.
Dutch, yeah. Barnyard style. I don't know. Anyways, and he's like, "What's up, boys? It's cash only." And I'm like, cool. Well,
would have been cool to tell us that on the phone when we called and ordered 6 pies.
That's a nice thing to know. So Brett and I both don't have our wallets on us. So we literally
and
can't.
Which one was driving?
Well, I have my ID. I don't carry it.
I see.
I'm a whatever. I just tap my phone. I guess it's bad, but I can't. I have my ID.
It works out 99% of the time these days.
I actually kind of love not carrying a wallet, to be honest with you. It really rocks. I throw my ID in my pocket if I have to drive, and that's the size of it. I just take my phone everywhere. Also, most of the time, I mean, this doesn't happen probably if you get pulled over, but if I ever am carded anywhere else, I'm just like, hey, here's a picture of my ID on my phone. And people are like, all right, you're grown. Come on in. It's nice. Anyways, so
Man, I got ID'd for the first time in years on my birthday. Dude didn't say anything.
Rude.
Rude. Right?
he was probably
right?
just
probably just
checking the year. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jinx.
that's probably.
For what though? For buying alcohol at a store, at a
We
bar?
went to like a bar in like a collegey neighborhood in Boston.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
You do have a baby face.
I know.
If we're ranking babyest faces between the 3 of us, you're number 1.
Yeah, I agree completely.
I didn't learn about my baby face until pretty late in life, and somebody mentioned it pretty casually, and I was like, I have what now?
You didn't know that until late in life?
Wait, really?
I mean, yeah,
How
it must
recently
have
was
been in
that?
college. No, I mean, it was like a long time ago.
That's not late.
I don't
in
think
life.
you can have a baby
No,
face
it
when
doesn't-
you're 16
it
years
doesn't
old.
count.
You're just still a baby.
No, it's only a baby face if
Maybe it
you're
was later
grown.
in college. I don't know.
Okay.
You were there, which doesn't pin it down. Doesn't
Yeah,
narrow
it
it
doesn't.
down.
Totally.
They nails it down to the last 19 years at
Yeah.
some point.
Okay, anyway, pizza.
So we got to drive fucking all the way back to the Airbnb. We get some cash. We drive back out to the spot. By this point, it's even snowier. We're sliding around. We finally get out there. And I just have this realization where I'm like, oh man, at least this pizza is gonna rock. Like, there's no way that this dude isn't just like busting his ass like in this little hole in the wall. They have like whatever. I mean, not that this is really an indicator of anything, but they had a bunch of positive reviews online. People were showing up and waiting in line to pick up their pies. We were like, oh man, it's cash only. Like, he has to just be like doing a good job and making this
because like,
work.
how could your business succeed if you're in a shack and you're cash only in 2026 unless your product was incredible?
Yes. Anyways, and we get home and we open the pizza. First
I was
off,
there when- I was there when you
first red flag.
I was there when you opened the box and you were just like, what the fuck?
dude, I was so fucking mad. I was so hungry, and the whole experience had taken like 45 minutes instead of like 20 minutes. It sucked. The pizza was cut insane. It was cut into squares,
like 1.5 inch squares,
by 1 inch squares,
like 70 plus pieces per pizza of like little tiny bites of squares of pizza.
Yes,
and
like,
they're round pizzas.
Yeah,
to be clear.
and anyways, and it sucked shit.
The pizza was bad. Yeah.
It tasted like the pizza that you used to get in high school if you went to public school.
The crust clearly came out of a freezer. Like, he clearly bought the crust and then was adding sauce and cheese, and he wasn't adding really good sauce and cheese. It was just normal sauce and cheese. It was cafeteria pizza.
I suppose the only thing I will add is that it was cheap as fuck, which
that's huge
thank
when
God.
you're feeding 60 people or whatever.
Yeah, but no, it was bad.
Which was good because, the amount of cash in the house was enough.
Yeah.
Well, by contrast, we had incredible pizza a couple nights before, and I think
pizza.
in both cases we got what we paid for, because that incredible pizza was extraordinarily expensive and felt worth it, and this was really bad and probably still worth whatever cheap money we paid for it.
Probably.
We did end up having to dispose of some amount of it because we literally couldn't eat it all because it was so gross.
Anyway, so you want to give us the name of that place just so people know if they happen to be in St. Paul?
It's called like Pizza
It was
Town,
called
right?
the Pizza Shop in
The
West
Pizza
St.
Shop.
Paul.
Wow.
There you go.
It was funny. I was like, hey, Brett, can you get directions to the pizza shop in West St. Paul? And he was like, yeah, what's it called? And I showed him my
Who's
phone.
on first?
And it said the pizza shop in West St. Paul. Shout out to Brett. He's a homie. So
I like how you shouted out everyone in the Airbnb as a new friend except for Jane.
fuck, I really forgot Jane.
Yeah.
Can I tell you, I had everyone lined up in my head, and then you talked for a long time about your draft, and it got all jumbled up. No, it was great. People loved it. Jane, it was so lovely to meet you.
Should we talk Boudica?
Yeah, we should talk Boudica.
You were not in the Boudica draft, correct?
I was not.
You were there. You were on the couch.
I was doing dishes.
Thanks for doing the dishes.
I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that.
Yeah,
It's
no
very,
problem.
very helpful. Boudica. The Boudica Destruction Horizon is MJ's cube that she built with her partner. I think her partner had the idea for the cube, and Morgan had the follow-through and collection to make it happen. But I know that Lauren is like responsible for like okaying the aesthetics of every card in the cube, and it's themed on Boudica, who was I'm going to get the timelines wrong. During the feudal era,
it was the Romans who were taking her land from her, so we're going to have to, that narrows it down to...
She was
no later than
she was the daughter of a landowner under feudal medieval England that was given, which was part of the Roman Empire, but maybe invaded by the Romans. I don't know.
Go read your own Wikipedia page.
The point is, she was left a lot of land by her father, and the Roman Empire was like, you're a woman, you're not allowed to own land, so we're taking that from you, and it's now part of just, whatever. And she went on a rampage and basically burned down half of England. And because of that, there is, according to Morgan, a 10-centimeter band in the geographic record, which is just a bunch of ash, and it's because of the era when Boudica was burning the whole country to the ground in rage, which is very cool.
Which fucking rocks.
Very, very rocks. And the cube is a semi-desert cube where you can have as many copies of Ash Barrens out of the basic box as you want, but no other lands. So you have to draft all your basics to get with Ash Barrens, as well as any other non-basics you want to fix your colors. And it is also an intentionally very punishing environment where it's supposed to be really hard to cast your spells. It is a desert cube in the spiritual sense as well, in that your spells are meant to be hard to cast. And there was at least one drafter that was like, I sure didn't get a basic of this color, so I sure can't play a third of my draft pool now because I have no way to fetch all these Ash Barrens do not get me white or whatever, which was very cool. Do you want to talk about your draft first? Oh, your draft was better than mine. Let me talk about my draft first. I took basics very highly, but also only ended up with 2 forests and 1 swamp. And I played effectively mono green, splashing for 2 cards, a Village Rites, which is a silly card to splash for, but that tells you about the sort of high punishment of the environment. A lot of your cards are just bad. There's also not that many creatures in this cube. It's meant to be like a difficult cube to navigate. I also splashed for Stab Wound and, importantly, Journey to Eternity, which was a big power outlier in my deck. You can check it out on the cards mention page if you want to see what it does. But I was mostly mono green. And I actually think, Morgan looked at my deck and said it looked quite good. I think I played 3 matches and went 2-1, but I lost in explosive fashion to Jane with a Ember Cleave on an indestructible creature that was just kind of nuts. Crazy curve out from Jane that sort of smoked me. But I won my other matches, and I think I was able to, by playing mono green and just being a little lucky in my seat that other people were not playing green around me, sort of draft a fairly functional normal deck with just green sources, and I was playing 9 Ash Barrens at the end of the day. I had some non-basics, those couple of basics I mentioned, and 9 Ash Barrens. I did misevaluate a couple cards. I had a Splendid Reclamation and a Monovuli Acid Moss, which I thought were going to be very strong. Splendid Rec returns all lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Acid Moss is 2 and 2 green to destroy a land and then search your library for a forest and put it into play, which I was like, this is incredible. I'll destroy their colored land and I'll get another forest out of my deck. In both cases, it did not occur to me. I was not thinking far enough ahead that once I have my 3 basics in play, I cannot cycle any more Ash Barrens. So I ended up with very few Ash Barrens in my graveyard because I can only ever cycle 3. The rest I have to just play.
Allowed to cycle them and fail to find.
You're allowed to, but
that didn't make sense.
That did not make sense.
Didn't work that way.
So the Splendid Reclamation was terrible because it's only ever getting back at best 3 Ash Barrens. I didn't have any self-mill themes, so I was like, immediately cut that after game 1. I was like, this card's trash. And same thing for the Acid Moss. It's never getting a forest into play. By the time I'm casting a green spell
to be able to cast it.
I do have some non-basics, but like I will have drawn 2 Ash Barrens by that point of the game, and I will have already cycled them for my forest, almost guaranteed. So it's just a 4-mana Stone Rain, which is still probably okay, but I had more other good playables. Yeah, it was a really interesting cube, and I just had green power outliers and a little bit of a shrine theme, and in most of my games was able to like really outvalue my opponent. There are a lot of high pip cards there, so like I had Invoke the Ancients, which is a 4 green pip card, which I could reliably cast because I had enough non-basic green sources to reliably cast it with my 2 forests as well. That card I wheeled because nobody else was playing that many green sources, and that card was a huge power outlier for me, and that was kind of a story of my draft, just green power outliers, and the only player really committed hard to a green deck, which allowed me to actually cast them. One other shout out to a card here I'd never read before because it's a Universes Beyond card, but after reading it, I was like, I desperately wish this wasn't a Universes Beyond card because it's so sick, which was Hunter's Bow, which is an equipment for 1 on a green that when it enters, you attach it to a creature and it fights something, so it's a fight spell. Maybe even a punch. I can't quite remember. Maybe Anthony can tell us. And then it also gives the creature Reach and Ward 2, which was just very cool, like bonus on your like fight spell, which I thought was kind of sick.
Just a punch.
Just a punch. I would love to play that in more cubes were it not Universes Beyond. And I'll say vibes-wise, it doesn't feel Universes Beyond. I mean, it still has the Assassin's Creed set symbol and the card frame, but the art is just a bow. It's just called Hunter's Bow. That could be in any set in history, basically. And I would love to be picking this up with like a core Skyfisher or something where it's slightly different aesthetically. So,
wow, the flavor text on this guy. Not all glory is won with an axe. Did you know there's multiple kinds of weapons?
Pretty cool. Anyway, I've said too much.
Do you guys have any weapons other than like hammers and kitchen knives?
Nope.
You kind of seem like you might have like a weird sword in your bedroom, like over your bed or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have that.
Yeah.
I do not have a weird sword. No weapons.
Okay.
All my things you could use as weapons are practical.
Man, I love that story about when you almost fucking severed your artery.
Femoral artery by stabbing myself in the thigh.
Yeah, I love that story.
No time to tell that story now.
No, you've told it multiple times anyways.
On the show? I don't think I have. Why would I?
I mean, we're already long. Why don't you just why don't you just run it?
Matthew's editing this one late this weekend. I don't want to leave you too long of an episode. Hit us with your draft of Boudica.
That's a good story. Yeah, basically, all I want to say is that I've been feeling increasingly like Desert Cube is like the final evolution of cubing. I drafted Brett's Fire Swamp a couple times this weekend, and I really love that environment. I am feeling really motivated to build a cube that is a desert cube that is just like extremely punishing to its players. Mm-hmm. And like maybe that's not for everybody.
It's not, I can tell you.
Okay, so I know that's not for everybody, and I gotta say, just locking the fuck in and like being successful in that environment feels incredibly satisfying, and it was so much fun. This was my 1-3-0 of the weekend, and I kind of got set on a path of playing blue early on by opening a couple of islands, which basic lands, as you may have just mentioned, are like first pickable in this environment.
But you ended up playing like 3 Ash Barrens, right? Like almost none.
Yeah, I ended up playing 3 Ash Barrens. My fixing was good. I was taking lands in my colors. I also want to really mention that the cube is incredibly flavorful. MJ and her partner did a really good job of like all of the cards really feeling like they were on brand with the Boudica theme.
Absolutely. Tons of heroines and tons of destruction and yeah, there was like a few cards that I was like, I don't understand why this is here, but I'm sure there's a good reason that I'm not aware of related to this story.
Yeah. I just had a ton of fun. I really liked that environment, and I want to build something like that for us to play in our group. My 2 honorable mentions were Serrated Arrows.
Cards messed up. I mean, honestly, an old school cube staple. This was in vintage cubes for a long time.
Okay. Well, I just never played with it.
Yeah, totally. It's fun to see a new generation get to discover just Serrated Arrows.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like everybody probably listening already knows, but I
doubt it very much.
I kind of undervalued it, and I ended up main decking it, and there were just the threat of activation, the way that it interacts with combat, and I'm like, what's 1/1/1 counter? It's not going to kill anything, but it interacts in so many different ways. It's such a cool card.
Yeah, I mean, for those that don't know, this is a 4-mana artifact that has 3 counters on it, and you can tap to move a counter, and it's a -1/-1 counters to a creature.
Yeah.
So it's like a 1/-1/1 counter return for 3 turns, but for 4 generic mana, it's ended up being really, really potent interaction.
It's really cool. And as I was playing it, I just played it for face value. I also kept thinking about ways that I
bounce
could
it or something.
Yeah, design an environment where I could bounce it or flicker it or recur it, which would be really cool. The other card that I'd never seen before that I really liked and that I loved, felt incredibly potent in this environment, was a 5-mana counter spell that was 3 blue that counters a creature or artifact, and then it comes into the battlefield under your control.
Desertion, right?
I just love that card.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Pretty sick.
And the flavor text says first comes the insult and then the injury. And
great flavor text.
I know, it just rocks. I want to design an environment where that's a good card because it's incredibly fun to play with.
Nice.
Yeah.
Glad you vibed with that cube so hard.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
I have one more that I wanted to shout out that did just pop up actually, which is James designed a cube that we played in the airport, and I am extremely attracted to. I'm going to build one of these because I think you can probably do it for like $30 and bring it around with us sometimes. It's a micro cube. I've never played a 5-mana format before, or excuse me, a 5-life format. Mm-hmm. So basically you draft 20 card decks. Everybody starts with 5 life. And the conceit is that all of the creatures are vanilla 1/1s, and there's just a ton of instant speed interaction. Mm-hmm. And it was so fucking fun and playable. Yeah. And we drafted it in like 10 minutes and built decks in 2 minutes and played rounds in 5 minutes. Yeah. And it was awesome.
Yeah. I always leave these events inspired to design some other new cube. It happens every time. I have one other draft I got to mention over the weekend, which was Spence was the designer of the 100 Black Lotus cube, which this came to my attention soon after 100 Ornithopters started gaining some popularity. Someone had made up 100 Black Lotus Cube. I did not know it was the person staying in an Airbnb until this fact came to be known to me. We ended up drafting it late on the last night of the event with a bunch of people. And I got to say, it's a very interesting environment. I think Spence is looking for feedback on it. So if you're listening and you have ideas about how this cube might work, maybe shout out to Spence, aka Poisoned Donut on Blue Sky. I ended up drafting 10 Black Lotuses. And I definitely went into this draft with my sort of experience of 100 Ornithopters telling me that I don't want a deck full of Black Lotuses necessarily. I mean, obviously Black Lotus is a much better card than Ornithopter, but it also does not kill your opponent. And so I was like, I don't want so many of these things that I am stuck with a critical mass of like mana and nothing to do with it. I also took card draw very highly, as you can expect, but also the cube is designed to not have just a bunch of brain geysers in it because that would enable a lot of degeneracy. I ended up with a green-white deck where I was really favoring Punisher like stacks effects. I pack one pick from the Trinisphere, and I was also really favoring turn 0 interaction. I didn't end up with as much of that because there's just not as much to go around, but I got both Endurance and Solitude, as well as a Chancellor of the Annex, which kind of matters for turn 1 interaction.
That's kind of funny.
I mean, you can obviously just play a land and then pay for your Black Lotus, your first Black Lotus, and then that trigger doesn't do anything. But the one time I had it in my opening hand, I also played it on my own turn 1 on the play. So not only was it that, but the static text of it is that every spell your opponents cast is counter unless they pay 1 for it. So I ended up going 2-1, Ryan Overturf 1 in the finals in this cube. I think I could have won the match I lost, which was my round 2, so who knows what would have happened round 3, but I misplayed. I had a Mystery Booster playtest card that allowed me to take the play and become the active player if I wasn't the active player, which seemed broken. And I snap kept a hand that had a Black Lotus and this Iguana, and I was like, I have to take the play. Like, being on the play is so strong. And the hand otherwise just wasn't really that functional, and I didn't think far enough ahead, which is to say, I didn't think to my first turn. I was just like, I want the play, give it to me.
Yeah, I mean, when the mid-game is mulligan decisions...
Well, here's what I'll say.
Ahead.
I actually don't think that being on the play matters as much as Spence,
other turn 1 interaction or turn 0 interaction.
Both thought that it did, and also like as many of the other players thought it did. None of my games ended on turn 1 except for the ones where I played Trinisphere on the play, which I think Spence has said he's going to cut after this because it's really punishing to get to go off and then drop a Trinisphere, which I also had my experience from the Turbo Cube to inform that particular play pattern. But otherwise, I had plenty of games go many turns and come down to a sort of grindy match of like, okay, who actually drew the best cards now that we both deployed all of our threats. And I think Spence was looking for ways to make the cube maybe more balanced and feel less swingy. I was saying to him, I think the 2 ways to go would either be to keep the cube as is, which is like full of the most powerful cards, the things you would expect to be casting with Black Lotus, but also break Singleton for turn 0 interaction. Like, just to give people more ways to not be so disadvantaged to be on the draw. That's one way to do this, like break Singleton for Force of Will, rather, for Force of Negation, for Solitude, for like that kind of stuff, and give people more turn 0 action. Or I think there's a powered down version of this cube that could be very interesting, where you are very careful to not include things that can win on turn 1. So like no haste, all win conditions have to be creature combat, and also avoid card draw, because if you can draw a bunch of cards, then you can just like, keep kind of chaining things together. And if you did that, then at least, being on the play means you're the first to get to attack. But you're like, also I would say in this situation, you have to cut all the Punisher cards, like the Trinispheres and the Thalias and stuff. But if you cut all of those and also cut all the ways to win on turn 1, then I think you end up in a situation where theoretically both players get to like do their thing, dump their hand, go crazy with their Black Lotuses. And then you see, okay, now we've both done our thing on each of our turns. One player's advantage for getting to attack first, but the other player, still got to build a big board, and you get to see how those things sort of bash together. I could see that being an interesting way to take this cube if he wanted to be more balanced. And I mentioned that the card type I'd like to see even more of in that situation would be cards like Ravenous Chupacabra or any effect like that, where it's like, this card's really strong, but it does nothing on the play. You can't just dump it on turn 1 on the play. So you're actually advantaged to be going second if you have Ravenous Chupacabras and, the like, as long as your opponent can't win on turn 1. Then you actually are kind of happy to go second. And I think you could include a density of those cards that would make this maybe much more dynamic. But yeah, I don't think you want to take Black Lotus crazy highly. I don't think you want to run as many as you can get your hands on. I think you want a couple in your opening hand, but you mostly want stuff to do with it. The power outliers for me were obviously Trinisphere, Mystic Forge was crazy, Solitude was crazy, and I mostly killed people with Sir Ginger, and Sun Titan. Sun Titan was also nuts, because, obviously gets back a Black Lotus, which is kind of cool. Spence said the cube is a joke, but it's a good joke, and I think that's an okay way to describe it. I left feeling like it is a joke, but also it could be, you could spend a bunch of time to bring this much closer to in balance than many people would think was possible for a cube with 100 Black Lotuses in it, and it would be, I think, dynamic and interesting.
More like a sick joke.
Anyway, I had to mention that draft.
Sounds fun. I would like to draft it, and I am so glad that I did not draft it as my third or fourth draft of the day. Whenever it was starting at
sounds like a lot.
9 p.m. on Sunday.
Would have been a lot.
I have to run, so I'm going to hit you with some closing thoughts. Shout out to my brother Grady, who I forgot to mention, who came through the Airbnb and hung out with us on Sunday.
Grady.
And yeah, I said this to you, and I think I'm going to say it on the air because I think it really makes me happy, and I feel really proud to be friends with you guys. And I think the thing that you're doing here is really cool. It was really incredible to meet people all weekend long, multiple people who had benefited from the Cube Fellowship program that you guys had set up. And I just think it's extremely fucking cool that you've been completely transparent with the amount of money that you've made from excess Patreon support. And I think it's really beautiful that you were able to invite so many people who would normally not be able to afford to come to these events to come out. You're doing good things for the community. You're helping the culture. I think it's really special.
I'm really proud of it too. And people, would thank me over the weekend when they saw me. And I was like, hey, thank the community, right? I'm honored to be a vessel, but it's only because we get so much support from people that we can even afford to do that. So thank you to everyone listening too that has donated to the Patreon or bought a pin and helped support what we do. Because seeing people that are such boons to these events, their presence really does make the events that much better, and being so confident that yes, I'm so glad you're here. It makes the event better for everybody. Feels really good. All right. Tell Pam I say hi.
All right, boys.
Hi, Pam. Oh, we got to talk about Companion Cube. I had fun in the Companion Cube. It was great.
What did you companion?
I companioned Overlord of the Baelmerk. Not the most obvious, big, splashy companion that, broadcasts a specific game plan, but it just felt like it is a thing to do cheap. Eventually is going to turn to a threat. There's not an easy way to sideboard against it and just, sort of neutralize your whole game plan. So I felt okay about it. I had, 3 halves of combos. I guess I had Punishing Grove, I had Kitchen Finks and Murderous Redcap, and, 1 or 2 ways to put counters on it, but no sacrifice outlets. So it's kind of just a pile overall, but I did get to do some cool things. I had an Insidious Roots, which was a cool little build around that cares about stuff going out of the graveyard. Works with the Overlord of the Baelmerk. Had one really awesome turn where I did the Overlord thing, got back, or what was it? I reanimated Honest Retstein, and then that triggers getting another creature out of the graveyard, so just made a whole bunch of plants. So yeah, the deck wasn't super focused, but I had lots of really fun gameplay moments. Metamorphosis Fanatic, I had never seen this card before.
Crazy.
It was nuts. Crazy. I never miracled it, but just casting it for 6 and being here's my Fury that now has lifelink, and I'm going to gain 4 life and kill 2 of your creatures, and then attack you for 1,000,000 with lifelink next turn. It was pretty nuts. Yeah, thank you to Max, my round 1 opponent, for being patient while I learned what all my cards did, and I eventually did figure that out, and it was fun to sort of learn, what all those little engines were, and by the third round, felt like I sort of had my feet under me, so I won my first round. Round 2, my opponent had this really cool combo deck with Gravecrawler as the companion, and then the 3-mana zombie that it combos with, which was a cool little package because...
Soul Trader.
Exactly, that one. Because the Gravecrawler came out early, did a couple damage to me, and you need to be at a life advantage to be able to take advantage of that combo, if I remember it correctly, so...
It depends on what your payoff is, but yeah.
But then I had Agatha's Soul Cauldron, which was a great sideboard companion against that deck. So I won my third match, and then my second match. Third match was against Brady, who I was terrified of because I had met them before, or seen them before at Vertex Philadelphia, where they had gone into the finals having not dropped a single match. It was insane. So I was like, well, this is kind of over. And they had this really cool combo deck with Amulet of Vigor as their companion and looping World Soul's Rage, which just let them put a bunch of lands from their hand and graveyard back in play, and then bringing that back with Eternal Witness and Tamiyo, and they were just constantly looping things, and I kind of didn't really have a chance. I did kind of cheese one game off of them with that aforementioned, what was that guy's name? Put my deck away. Metamorphosis Fanatic. But ultimately, I think I sideboarded my companion again into Ingot Chewer, which is just a 1-mana destroy the Amulet of Vigor, which didn't shut them down, but it slowed them down enough that I was able to actually, win the game before they could take their one big combo turn, trying to do it all in one turn instead of sort of over the course of a couple. And then round 3, I kept the Ingot Chewer, and they sideboarded into Summer Bloom as their companion, which is just an alternate way to do similar stuff, and that was a really cool plan. That was exciting to see the way that they pivoted. I spent a lot of time in retrospect thinking, should I have switched up my companion? And I think really what I should have done, obviously, in retrospect, is just again switch to the Soul Cauldron, because so much of their deck cared about the graveyard and being able to pull stuff out with the Eternal Witness.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I was saying You asked me what I would have companioned, and I said the Cankerbloom is what I would have companioned.
Yeah, Cankerbloom also would have been good because it, does the same thing as Eiganjo, but also just gives me access to an extra card that's going to be a threat. I considered a little bit
It also does it at instant speed, which I think is huge because it will stop the go off in one turn thing, which your opponent tried to do when the face-up Eiganjo was facing them. Like, you get to play out the Cankerbloom and just beat down with it and then threaten the activation whenever you want.
That's a great point. Yeah, so I think that was definitely a punt and I could have done better. Brady obviously won the draft. He is a very scary player to face in a positive way. He was having a great time. Really enjoyed mind slavering me turn over turn.
I mean, it is a pretty fun card to resolve.
It is a pretty fun card, I've been told. But overall really enjoyed the companion cube. My deck felt kind of like a pile, but then it just played out really differently every time, which is honestly the kind of Magic that I enjoy. So 2 thumbs up for the companion cube.
Shout out to Shoebox. Shout out to all the great cube designers. Also, I should have said this way earlier. I just updated the event page on the website. It was out of date by a couple weeks, but more importantly, tons of people were waiting on final things to figure out to announce their events. So there's a solid...
Wow, that is a much bigger list than there was yesterday.
Yeah, it was, I think, 1 event on there before yesterday, and now there's, 10? Something like that?
It's a bunch. I won't even take the time to count them.
Lots of great events coming up, so check that out and attend an event just like Shoebox near you. You will have the best time of your life. I promise. It's the best. On that bombshell, that's the end of this episode of Lucky Paper Radio. Thank you all for tuning in. All the music for this show is produced by DJ James Nasty, and the show is edited by Matthew. All the Magic cards are produced by Wizards of the Coast, and this podcast is produced by thinking really hard about Magic cards and speaking to microphones about it. Anthony, thank you for the gift of friendship and for the gift of Cube.
Thank you for going to Shoebox with me, and thank you, Patrick. Hope your session's going well.
Yeah.